Oh my goodness. I thought we were done with love messages, but we are not. They are here. They are demanding presence. Just as I said that, some birds started chirping a crazy amount. So if you hear birds chirping in this, they're just excited. They're demanding presence as well. From what I feel here, romance, love, I've talked about this a lot, is a kind of expression for a deeper message for you guys. So even if you're uninterested or actively avoiding love, I suggest to maybe give this a healthy skeptical listen. I say that because love is so intertwined with your personal life path and lessons about yourself. Avoiding it entirely might be hindering to you in some way. From what I see here, I'll get to that later though, I think. As someone living so close to your energy, I do have some thoughts, okay? I have some little thinkings. And I don't think that those belong in this reading, so I am going to tell you I am going to be leaving some rambles and thoughts at the end. For those who are feeling super skeptical about tarot, spirituality, love messages, if you want to hear me yap, I'll be yapping at the end, especially for you guys. So be there or be not square and square. I don't know. I do think that the skeptical energy is also part of this reading about today's message as well from Spirit. There's a message here for what looks like a skeptic and also a believer. So on that sort of axis, you are a walking contradiction. You might be both a skeptic and a believer, which kind of contradicts itself, huh? I'm just kind of sensing, whoever this message is for today, you are feeling intensely skeptical about information being given to you at this time. You are double checking your work, your sources. There's something you're not sold on, and it's showing up around you. It's showing up in doubt, in questioning more than usual, definitely. There's a ton here about a person attached to your energy. Doesn't have to be romantic, could be, but just an energy transition that they're going through, clarification. There's a lot of technical understanding that lives in today's message about them specifically and how it relates to you. And so there's threads here about understanding a person as a way to more deeply understand yourself. So very mirror type of energy. Some of you might be struggling to understand someone's behavior towards you versus their words. So very much integrity type of conflict here. There's messages here to clarify what is going on and what will continue to happen as you slowly move forward, and it looks like they do not, in a very specific way. There's a lot of clarity in today's message, even for those who feel not stuck on a person, who feel it's long past, dead, and gone. This message is for you as well, because it's talking about understanding yourself more deeply through their behavior. But some of you, a very small percentage, but a powerful percentage, need clarity to decide on a situation. Those who need clarity to decide, it's interesting because they hold the power. Like you might hold the power of the say of the direction in the relationship, but you remain in indecision. So this message might help clarify some things to you. But more importantly than that, this message will be for those who have felt something unresolved, have felt something confusing, something that didn't end cleanly. Even if a lot of time has passed, even if you feel like you're getting over it yourself, this still might be your message, because if it's confusing, if it remains open-ended in some way and hasn't closed, there's clarity here for you. So in other words, this message is for a lot of different types of people. This is for a person who might feel they are moved past it. It is long dead and gone. They don't want to hear about it anymore. This is also a message for someone who needs clarity and they're indecisive and want to pick something and move forward. And then there's also just someone who's deeply confused, doesn't maybe hold the say of the direction, but just it didn't end cleanly and they want to understand. If any of that sounds like you, if you are feeling both skepticism and confusion, this is your reading. So I sat here with the chirping birds for a little bit because there's an energy here that I have no idea how to put words for. So I had to look it up and do some research because I was just like, I don't know how to articulate what this is. And the only thing that came up that was even remotely close to what I'm feeling and came through for you is the term hedonic adaptation. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, okay? But it's going to live more in the description. I'm going to write some fancy scientific words in there for you all, as I always do. It's kind of like me pretending I'm a science teacher, but I'm an energy reader. Maybe the two can go hand in hand. I don't know. Anyway, basically, the concept describes a base point that we all have that we essentially return to. In relationship to this person here, I sense they don't have a stable baseline. It's constantly evolving, it's constantly increasing. And it's important you understand this very, very specifically. What this looks like in real life is it looks like the person needing more and more stimulation to feel content or happy. That's what we're talking about here when we're talking about quote unquote a baseline. I'm sure you guys have heard or maybe understand this a little bit. You've experienced it on some level where we constantly seek something out more and more. We have to go through more extremes to feel the same thing, right? Our body adapts. It's natural, but this is different. I'm being guided to explain to you why they experience this need to increase and why you don't, and to clarify that very specifically so you understand a core difference and understand yourself better. I'm being guided to explain that this person actively displaces their energy and they have to compensate by displacing it to increase their baseline, like what we're talking about here, as where you are very much the opposite. You do not displace your energy. You do not need constant adaptation. And I think Spirit is bringing forth this adaptation energy and explaining it to you because it's important you understand that they don't just get away with doing this. There's a cost, there's a price. They're just paying in an invisible way that we're going to clarify here today. So with this adaptation that they're experiencing in real life, this is looking like needing more dopamine, more stimulation, having to constantly search for new and better novelty, things like increasing scrolling, seeking more validation with people, and that need keeps increasing. They can never really fill that space. It keeps increasing over and over and over again. So they have to work harder and harder to bridge that gap. That's what we're talking about here with this increased adaptation you don't necessarily experience and they do. Now, I think we can all see that the cost of displacing their energy outside of them is very high if they have to constantly increase this need for more and more stimulation. But from the outside, you just kind of see them easily moving forward and not having to struggle because they're continuously externalizing it or seeking a new action. And I think it's coming through here for you to see this more clearly because this thing that they do, this displacement and this adaptation, is the main reason you cannot fully understand them or understand their behavior. All the threads run through this displacement energy for them. That's where all the confusion comes from. That's where all the contrast comes from. They are displacing their energy outside of them. And you need to hear that very clearly, understand that first and foremost. I kind of just see from this displacement that they do, where they basically take their internal energy and push it outside of them. It disturbs you because you, number one, can't really understand it and have never operated that way. And it doesn't feel like a conscious choice. Like you both sort of came into this world as either someone who displaces or someone that internalizes. And so this first part of the message is basically putting you both in defined buckets, explaining that difference super clearly before we can talk about the real consequences that happen to this person in the future and the real consequences you experience right now in the present. So this person displaces their energy. And in simple terms, because I'm saying the word displacement 8,000 times, but not really explaining it, they just actively offset what's inside to the outside. You, on the other hand, you do not displace your energy. You keep it all inside, even if it hurts, and you deal with it. You do not move it outside. You do not know how to move it outside. This is very unconscious. This is how you are wired. But as a result here, there's a huge imbalance between you two in the way in which you both experience consequences because both of you face them just very differently. There's a rather noticeable real-time difference in how you work through energy versus how they do. The hard truth I'm seeing here is that the real difference between you two shows up in what looks like here, that this person gets a get out of jail free card and you temporarily are in jail from an energy standpoint. If someone were to observe the two of you, they would see one person is suffering and the other one is fine and operating, okay? But the reason that that assumption exists is because that person observing doesn't see the long-term consequences of what's happening with this other person. You yourself could also start to unconsciously view what you're doing as wrong and displacement being right because they seemingly don't have to experience suffering in the same way you do. You're sitting here with your feelings, with the energy being processed within you instead of pushing it out, and they are able to just adapt, just keep adapting. And this is a little bit more complicated than just saying, okay, one is an anxious attachment and the other one is avoidant. No, we're talking about how one displaces energy and one processes it internally. It's a little bit different, a little bit more complicated, and both have different sets of consequences. But I think from the outside, this person separate from you, they appear normal, they appear functional, they appear fine, and you are faced with challenges in real time. So we're not talking about, attachment style. We're talking about consequences. And these consequences are highlighting what looks like a core difference, that displacement versus internal processing of energy. And that's why there's been so much active confusion here for you. Once you understand how you both process energy, you can understand the threads that run through it. But the first thing that's very important is you need to understand this person displaces their energy and you internally process it. For this part of the reading, we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes here. There are consequences for both sides, okay? And I'm being given sort of a visualization here to ground these consequences or just what's happening better. I'm being shown a person who keeps spending. They keep spending on their credit cards, okay? Just swipity swipe, swipe. But this person is what looks like in an outrageous amount of debt. They do not have the funds to be swipity swipe swiping. So debt here could be a literal thing, and that's why it's coming through. Like this person we're talking about had a literal spending problem, or perhaps you're working through your own debt at this time and it's just coming through in this odd way. Debt could just be literally relevant, but in a figurative sense, this is showing me how a sort of imbalance has persisted here. There's a connection between your skepticism that has developed, like how you don't fully believe or trust things at this time, and this difference in energy behavior that I just explained between displacement and internalization. Over time, experiencing someone who displaces has sort of led you to not trust, to be skeptical, especially skepticism with your internal processing type, because you face consequences head on and you're observing that another person gets to displace them and kind of get out of jail free. So it's led to this internal and external skepticism in all ways. You're not trusting yourself. You're not trusting your environment. Things don't feel true because you're not seeing a result. I sense you're trying to understand how someone could keep spending when they're in debt. Literally, energetically, all the things here. There's just a confusion. You don't get it. And from an energy level, that persistence to understand the behavior is very important. It's showing through a lot here. It's not a wrong thing you're doing. Your guides want to clearly say that revisiting the situation, whether in the literal physical or in your mind, is not harming you. And maybe you're struggling to hear that. Maybe you're struggling to believe that. Maybe your skepticism is really overpowering how you're viewing this circling behavior. There's a societal conditioning here that plays a role. I can see there's an understanding we have societally and I guess in a cerebral way about rumination, about obsessive thinking, or whatever the term is that we've assigned to this type of circling. It's confusing what's actually happening on an energy level, on a spiritual level, I think, because we have so many bad, negative associated terms with what you're doing or what you could be perceived to be doing. You circling this or doing this obsessive behavior is necessary. It's a part of your spiritual journey to understanding your inner self. It really has nothing to do with this person, unfortunately. Maybe that might be hard to hear, but the circling you're doing here, the understanding this behavior, the confusion, it's guiding you into yourself. It's not harming you. And that might be a disruptive little piece of today's message that some might not agree with or some might not be ready to hear. But we use the term mirror a lot in the spiritual community, right? We often think of it as like a quick glance. We look in a mirror and then we put it down and we get it. And that's not what happens. Our conditioning, our conflicting beliefs about obsession and rumination conflicts with the spiritual path of a mirror. Conceptually, we understand a mirror, but we don't accept its role. We think a mirror is kind of like a quick view and we move on. We set it down. We see ourselves and then that's it. La la la, we're pretty, we put it down. But a mirror actually lingers. It persists until we see ourselves clearly. And that takes many layers. That takes a lot of time, a lot of circling. And so the role of a mirror in our lives is not a quick glance. It's not a, oh, got it, and then move on. It is very much we hold that mirror and stare and re-stare and stare again. So if you're feeling like you can't set this down, it's because really you haven't seen yourself clearly. But more than that, like the goal isn't to really set down the mirror. The goal is to not need to set it down at all. I think really your guides are pressing here today to reframe this in that picking up the mirror, thinking about this person, obsessing about this person, circling this behavior is not a bad thing. The goal is to begin to see it for what it is, that it's not a bad thing, that it's doing something. It's helping clarify you to yourself. It is a mirror. It takes a while. And the longer we resist looking in that mirror, actually, the longer it takes to see ourselves clearly. So really, there's a really important, profound distinction here from your team. You're not trying to stop thinking about this person or circling. That's not the goal. You're trying to accept these thoughts, this circling, this behavior, and allow it fully without demanding that the mirror needs to be set down and that you're done. So, what exactly is this message here today? First, there's a lot of notes here about revisiting, about obsessing, about circling, about understanding mentally, emotionally, spiritually, not setting down this mirror, holding this mirror. And that revisiting and doing that is not causing harm. It is the perspective of holding the mirror. It is the perspective of revisiting that is causing the harm, not the actual behavior itself. So very clear, I mean, almost crazily clear, is the goal, the end point is not to never revisit this person again, is not to stop circling, is not to stop obsessing. It is to see there's so much to see here in this mirror about you. And that will take a long time. And to accept that and to hold the mirror up without any shame or resistance. And I think your team really knows that in order to accept this circling fully, you have to understand why you're circling in the first place, which is why this message came to you. You're very much the type that needs to do this. There's a level here of accepting this part of you and really how you're meant to unlock those deeper inner workings and understandings of yourself through others, through these mirrors. So allowing this circling process, not just for this person, but for many persons in the future, is key to unlocking yourself, is key to unlocking this inner understanding much quicker. In terms of long-term consequences, from what I see, the person who displaces their energy will continue to move outside of themselves and have to adapt their baseline because of this. Over time, this is not an obvious crash and burn in what we know it to be. You need to know that there's not necessarily going to be this like big tower moment that you might be waiting for from them. There's more of a slow, painful process. There's what looks like a slow removal from themselves over time where they're further and further away without even noticing or realizing it. Think of someone who keeps spending and spending and spending and spending on top of their already established debt. That increase is not easily fixed overnight once they're ready to do that. There's no tower moment that can eliminate the debt, right? It's more of a quiet dissatisfaction that grows and grows. And while they may seem fine and functional from the outside, they are still in debt. And we all know that people can live in debt technically, and they can keep spending and appearing fine. In fact, they can appear doing much better than most people, but it's putting them further and further away from real peace at the end of the day or behind closed doors. As where you are paying your debt as it happens. You are facing your feelings. You are keeping them inside and working through them. And so that's why it feels so imbalanced right now. But long term, the payoff for you is your life is true to who you are because you're not moving further and further away from yourself. You get to have peace. You're not in debt to something. You don't have to worry or have that in the back of your mind. In an energy sense, it's the same. And so I think your guides in spirit today want you to know that you're just paying the debt as it happens in real time. And while that feels unfair in the moment, there's real consequences for those who keep energetically spending. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it is the main difference between real inner peace and happiness and constant dissatisfaction that never goes away and just gets harder and harder to access a solution for. Okay, you finished the reading, and now you are in my space. You may leave if you don't want to hear me yap, but I want to yap today, and I got a few things here to talk about. If you're new here, originally the space was kind of called the Salt Talks, but now I just kind of yap without a title. I used to also assign episodes, and I don't even know what episode we'd be on if I had a title for that today. Okay, so what do I want to yap about? I want to talk about something that keeps increasing from what I feel from all of you. There's been an increase in collective skepticism, like a huge increase. It's been gradual, but it's spiking now. That's the best way I could describe it. And a lot of you are feeling intense skepticism about readers, about love messages, about hopium. And I'm seeing and feeling it a lot more from you all. And honestly, there's a part of me that's like really proud to a degree because I know that I've done my part in planting those seeds. Some of you were like this though, however, prior to me coming in and planting those seeds, I think. So I want to say this kind of gently, but also as gentle as what a clumsy giant in a delicate glass shop could maybe look like. That's me. I'm the clumsy giant. There might be some distortions that are created from this increase in skepticism. And it's coming through very strong. A healthy skepticism is good. Discernment, we talk about that a lot here, but hyper skepticism is easy to fall into when we over discern. And from an energy sense, I feel that developing from some of you. And this is kind of like the result of projection of someone being deeply hurt or someone betraying someone's trust. And so they project that onto readers, onto energy everywhere. It's kind of like a closed off distrust energy. In its purest form, it is a blocked energy. It is the energy of dismissal. So keep your skepticism, but please know that hyper skepticism is a real thing. And just because a few tarot readers exploited love or betrayed that trust, that doesn't mean that all love and hope messages are wrong. Think of this as like a closed system instead of an open system. Not everything needs to earn access to be valid. If that were true and discernment was the only factor, then disruptive messages would never have a place because they would never be accepted because they're hard to hear and hard to accept. So discernment alone is not enough. Skepticism can turn into hyper skepticism if we let it. And so why am I yapping on about this? Okay, unfortunately, love, hope, they are still a part of messages. It is still a part of creation to have hope. It is still a big part of collective energy to love. And it will always need to have a part in tarot. And it doesn't always automatically mean that something is inherently addictive or bad. Sometimes we have to kind of experience cycles of repetitive messaging before energy unblocks, before it moves. And that doesn't automatically mean someone is being exploited because they keep picking or being drawn to those messages. Usually love messages are the strongest ones to read from spirit. Anyway, I'll talk more about neutral energy in the future because I might have pumped you guys full of too much skepticism now. That's what I'm kind of seeing, although I don't know if it's necessarily my responsibility or if it's how the collective energy is just shifting, especially as technology is being over relied upon and we have so much open access to information. We have to gradually increase skepticism or discernment, but I'll talk more about that later if you guys are interested. For now, there's a part of me that's really happy that you're not prone or exposed or vulnerable. So I'll take the hyper skepticism over the vulnerable energy, I think, any day. The next thing I want to talk about is memberships. Guys, you really do love me as much as I love you. And that's crazy. I thought I just had this like unwavering love and devotion to you all, and it was just one-sided, but it is very much reciprocated. I wanted to talk to you guys about how it's definitely working from a nudge or energy standpoint. I feel there's more order. I feel there's more detail being defined. I didn't know if anything would come from it, but what's interesting is I'm picking up on a lot of healing frequencies that are super specific. It's kind of random, but I think a large majority that perhaps signed up are deep in healing. So deeper healing requires tools, things to help encourage the healing. And that's kind of coming through the loudest. But from what I can sense, I basically created or established buckets that like organize the energy structure in some way for me. And I think it's important as I continue to grow, channeling energy can kind of somewhat become overwhelming without some sort of structure, because it's hard to tell the difference between things at a certain point when your audience grows and more things are being thrown at you. So I think what this did is it gave me like little containers, little buckets to put energy into. Being open and free to all, while it's super noble and commendable, it doesn't protect the reader long term. And it kind of set me up for failure in certain ways because I would just keep burning out. So think of it as me having kind of like buckets to pour my energy into. Instead of channeling or spreading it all around, it's being able to narrow and contain it a little bit. And I think having some sort of structure is necessary for me as I keep growing and more energy keeps slapping me around. So anyway, I used the membership money, and you guys might laugh at this, but I used it to buy more sound instruments to start, because that was the first thing that demanded attention once I started creating these containers. Is like, these hertz or these healing frequencies really are asking for my attention right now, at least for the temporary time being. And so I really invested in that for you guys so I could get those specific sounds. I think that it'll probably start from what I'm feeling is like videos will kind of be ad-free, and I'm thinking to kind of play those instruments for you in the specific frequency you need at that time. I also think that the messages might be short. If I do start doing those videos for you guys, they'll be very specific. They'll be hyper specific and maybe accompany with those sounds. And that's where my brain's going now that I've sorted through those more narrow energies. But it might change. I don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen. You guys, we're going through this together for the first time. I think the most important thing that I want to say, though, is putting on, a different bucket. That does not mean that anything is changing for non-members. I want to make that super, super clear, is like, I am still protecting your energy just as much as I'm protecting members' energy. And they're getting the same allocation of effort. You are not getting less from me just because you don't pay anything. And I want that to be super, super clear. I want you to think of this more as me supporting and structuring myself as more energy is being thrown to me. But that really, 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 really means nothing for non-members. It's the exact same. I still get your energy. I still protect it. It still will always be completely free just for you. I just wanted to say that because I know it's like kind of a weird thing to do this. It kind of changes the playing field a little bit. And I just want you to know, even if you become a member and you leave, you will still have protected spaces. They're not just leaving. Nothing's changing in that way. I'm just supporting myself to be able to grow, I think, because without it, I would just keep burning out. And I just can't tell you guys, gosh, like this is going to sound, just leave if you don't want the cheese or the mush, please. It's like, it means so much that even a few people have signed up. Like I'm still in shock. Like when I do crazy experimental things, like when I made sleeping salts on a whim randomly, I expected no subscriptions to come and people subscribed. And I just think that that's crazy. I'm just doing things as they come sporadically. And you guys are just like, hell yeah. I have no words. I really don't. I never thought I would be a membership girly. I don't know why YouTube trusts me to be a membership girly. I'm just kind of in disbelief about it all, truly, that I can even read and connect for so many people online. I never expected this from where I came from in the past, I don't think. I also just want you to know it's not lost on me, the trust and the faith you send to me when you do something like this. Like I have never, I don't think, signed up for a membership either. And so I know exactly what it means that you did that for the first time, some of you with me. I can feel that trust and the energy you send me. It's like the strongest nudge I've ever gotten is how much trust that you guys just did it anyway for the first time, So maybe I'm kind of intense about this all, I know, but I have to be. I'm given such access to people's energy that I can't just, be casual about this. I want you to know that like, this is not the norm for me. I came from doing very small in-person group reads to doing YouTube, and YouTube is like this insane machine where a lot of people can have access to me and I can have access to them. And it's both the most overwhelming experience and also the most amazing, beautiful experience that I could never explain to you. And I wouldn't change a thing. I'm so freaking pumped. I'm so grateful. You guys have literally no idea. No idea. Anyway, thank you for listening to my gushing outpour of love for you all. I just want you to honestly know that if you're a member, if you're not a member, I'm so devoted to all of you, literally no matter what. I don't even care. I don't even care. But it's not lost on me how thankful I am for those who do support and do become a member. So I just wanted you to know that. I think I'm done gushing. I'll get off and I just love you guys. Cheers, friends.